Hey guys, in the next 10 seconds, we're going to talk about a very popular coffee brand called Bulletproof Coffee. But what's really interesting, because we've just recorded the episode, is that Lorenzo noticed something very fascinating where they have just one product image. And when he was going through the reviews, he discovered, and this is why reviews mining is so important, he discovered an objection or a concern that people had that was not addressed. And using that as a jumping off point, he actually came up with a bunch of interesting ideas. So he talks about that at the end of the show. Stick around, enjoy the show. Ciao. Hey guys, so we are going to talk about a very popular coffee brand. It's grown massively over the last couple of years called Bulletproof Coffee. And well, they actually have a much extended product line. We're looking at their coffee. And more importantly, we're looking at their original blend. And this product is super popular. As you can see over here, they have 4,000 reviews. Let's just quickly walk through the page layout. So they show the product on the left as expected. I'm showing the desktop version of the page. I'm pretty sure most of their visitors are mobile, but just so that there's more real estate we can play with. There's a little intro over here. There's a bunch of.
Can you do a little bit of a zoom in?
So they have the product image, and then they have a little short description over here. It doesn't matter really. It's just a coffee. And then they've got all the roasts that are available. They explain what those roasts are lower on the page over here. But I think they also they actually have a call to action here to explain what they are here visually as well. Then they have the select your size subscription option, talk about the benefits. There's some graphics here, cross upsells. I think this is understood. I think people understand what this page is all about. So, and they've got obviously tons of reviews over here. Is that a good enough overview, or do you want to talk anything specific I missed you want to talk about, Lorenzo?
Let's get into the ideas. I'm excited to hear yours, dude.
All right, well, let's see. So the first thing I should mention here, which is very interesting, actually, I think this idea applies to a lot of websites. I'm actually now using this for our client projects as well, because I never thought about this before. I'm not going to be able to recreate it over here, but what happens is that when you come to this page, or when you come to any of their pages, really, they actually have you can see it here. There is this pop-up that appears. You get 15% off. Now let's talk about this, because this is a very important detail that as a CRO, you can't overlook. You can't be thinking about product page sales pitch when you have this elephant in the room that appears, which is this discount code. The problem is that, first of all, a lot of these pop-ups get triggered fairly quickly. So I hadn't even read the description when the pop-up appeared. Also, sometimes customers don't know what happens if they click the close button. Maybe I won't see it again. Maybe, you and I know how to go to incognito mode and activate pop-ups again. My grandma doesn't understand all those things. And so she's like, oh my God, I haven't read the description, but they've given me the offer. What do I do? What do I do? There's no bloody minimize button. They should actually have a minimize button. But the point is that this is a pretty significant, meaningful discount. So imagine a scenario where someone has read some of this description and said, you know what, this is really, really compelling. This is really interesting. Now they've confronted with the pop-up and they haven't read the full description, but the discount is very compelling. And I wanted to solve specifically for that. So there are two types of people that are interacting with this. Let's say that the pop-up has a conversion rate of 12%. So 12% of people that came here give up their email addresses. So those 12% of people are willing to give up their email address because they feel a 15% discount is meaningful. Mm-hmm. As a conversion optimizer, I actually don't care about the 12%. I actually care about the remaining 88%. And I'm asking myself, like, someone has been given an offer for a discount. Why wouldn't they take up the offer? It's a free discount. And now I don't know all the reasons why it would be, but I think one reason could be because they haven't had a chance to be completely sold on this specific coffee ground. Now, there are many other issues with this pop-up. First of all, this image does not represent what this product is about. So I would certainly personalize it for the product. But the bigger point is that if I'm on the coffee ground page and I see a pop-up and I haven't had a chance to fully be sold by the sales pitch, there's a simple solution you can do. So what I did was I wanted to just add a simple call to action over here that says, here's why original is special. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And the copy could be whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I mean, you want to use copy that is relevant to that particular product. Because remember, for someone who is coming to this page, your entire website, as far as they're concerned, you are a coffee company. They don't care about your other product line. So I need to make sure that if the pop-up has appeared for them, that there is a mechanism for them to, if they're still skeptical. So like I said, 12% of people would sign up, the 80% would be skeptical. For them, I would show this call to action. Now, is this the best location for it? You can test 50 other ideas. It's not the point. The point is that there needs to be some mechanism for someone who's skeptical to say, yeah, you know what, I need I'm not completely sold on giving up my email address. I want another compelling reason. So I put this call to action here. This could have been placed here as well. I'm sure there's a better placement for it. So that was my first idea, is to kind of.
I love the hand that you put as a visual cue to draw
Right.
the attention to the headline.
Right.
Very clever thought right there.
So yeah, and of course, then our standard practice of like, you click on this, there'll be a pop-up. At the bottom of the pop-up, you can have a feedback beacon, and you can say, did we address your question? Because who's clicking this? Someone who is saying they want to understand what makes original special. Did our sales pitch work, not work? So you keep on iterating on that till you get a high success rate, and then you correlate to see what is the email sign-up rate. So if it goes up by 20%, it's working. So that was my first idea.
Cool.
I think the other thing I found, so I did a word count on the page. They have 188 words on the page. And to me, this is potentially a problem, right? Because there are people that are coming to this page, and this is a premium coffee. It's not ultra premium, but it's definitely not inexpensive coffee. I'm assuming a lot of people that are switching to this brand probably were spending less on coffee, or at least, maybe potentially was spending less. And I just didn't think this was enough content. So someone who's looking to buy premium coffee but doesn't know about this product, there just might not be enough content on the page. Now, technically, I could go to YouTube and search for Bulletproof original review. The problem with that approach is that for the brand, the problem is that this is out of their control. Right? The review could be negative. The review could say, here are 5 other brands to consider. Who knows what's going to happen. So my suggestion is what the brand should do. Basically, my idea is that there are 2 types of people that are interacting with this page. There are people that are just buying, but then there are also people that are skeptical. So I've identified some key locations where you can have a call to action that allows people who are new to the brand, who are skeptical, who've never tried this before, to raise their hand up and say, yes, this is who I am. And so there's one location is there. Let me see. My second location is somewhere over here. And I'm just picking locations. So third location I've removed, actually, they had some copy over here. I kind of got rid of it. And in place of that, I'm kind of using this location to draw attention to, are you new here? And I'll explain this later in the idea. Another location I picked was over here. I put an extra checkmark item. Another location I picked was over here. So I've picked like 5 locations. I think it's 5. And let me see if there's one more. And there's 6. There's one more over here. And I think that gets to the end of it. So the idea is that we want to have multiple variations that are framed differently, that are kind of saying the same thing. Are you new here? Ever tried Bulletproof coffee? Here's how we are different, a different take on coffee, right? And you place this in multiple locations. And what we like to do when we set up an experiment is we set all of these as the same CSS element name. And so when you click on any one of them, we set it up so that all of those other ones get hidden. So you maximize the visibility without making it repetitive, right? And then when you click on it, so the only people who would click on it, if someone who is new here, someone who's never tried Bulletproof coffee, these are what I would call skeptical first-time buyers. And they want to really understand 188 words is not enough for them. So they need more. So what happens then is when you click on this, here are the 5 things that I would kind of focus on. The first thing I would do is I would acknowledge all of the coffee options that are available. You don't have to list all the coffee options, but I think one of the mistakes that brands make is they pretend they don't want to talk about alternatives because they feel that the moment they talk about an alternative, I've lost the sale. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And I just think it's ridiculous, because if you were confident, you would talk about the fact that there are other alternatives. You don't have to go into great detail, but I think by acknowledging that, you're actually disarming the buyer, because the buyer already feels like, wow, these guys aren't scared of talking about these alternatives. So I think this is the first thing I like to do. The next thing I want to do is I want to talk about why we created this coffee. And even though there were so many alternatives, and what I'm really doing here is I'm gradually building a case for my brand. And then the next thing I like to do is I like to position myself as a knowledgeable guide. And so here I'm doing three things. I'm trying to, the three things I want to focus on. The first one is talking about how hard, because one of the things they emphasize is this clean coffee. And I don't want to just simply say that, we sell clean coffee. I want to actually I want to kind of agitate the problem by saying that it's a really, really hard thing to get right. I want to talk about how high altitudes in Guatemala and Colombia simply produce better coffee than alternatives. Again, because that's where they make their coffee. And I also want to share some interesting statistics about coffee that people may not know. So I want to kind of, we call this edutainment. And I want to talk about, this is a really important one. I want to talk about an aspect of our journey where we started on a path, we discovered a problem, we nearly died trying to solve this problem, but then we overcame it. And the reason why this is so effective, and we've covered this in previous episodes, is this idea of labor illusion. The consumer actually places a lot more value to things that are hard to produce versus things that came out easily. The next thing I would do is I would visualize. I want to help the user. Ultimately, in order to get someone to take action, we have to amplify desire. And in order to amplify desire, 50% of our brain is devoted to image processing. So how can we use the power of visuals to do that? And so I would kind of maybe come up with some visuals of toxins versus an image of toxins versus other coffee sources, blah, blah, blah. And then the final one is that, we're selling a premium coffee, and no consumer, no matter what the price point is, wants to buy something that feels like a commodity. Nobody wants to buy something that any Lorenzo could have bought or Rishi could have bought, right? So I want to make them feel special. And we have to find something interesting to make them feel special. I came up with one example here. So I wanted to say, I looked up a statistic, and there are 400 million cups of coffee that are consumed per day in the US. And I just kind of said, only 3% of them are toxin free. And so the user's like, wow, I'm in this elite club, right? So anyway, so those are the 5 things I would cover. I actually have a link here, which we'll include on the website. So you can actually see the specific checklist we use. But Lorenzo, that is the end of my idea.
So I love the second one the most, I have to say. One thing that could be interesting, if you scroll up a little bit, when you talk about, right there. No, scroll down.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you talk about why Bulletproof, one thing that I discovered from doing reviews mining is that a lot of people come across this brand because they read a book from the founder of Bulletproof. And I don't know anything about the book. I didn't even check out the book. But I wonder if the book was written as a sort of a marketing material it's kind of I don't know if you read Delivering Happiness from Tony Hsieh.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that concept. He wrote the book as a marketing material for Zappos, right? So I wonder if he's done something like that with a book. And in that example, from what I understand from the reviews, he talks a lot about the way he comes up with this type of coffee. Especially because in his methodology, for the original in particular, this type of coffee, he suggests to mix it up with butter. I don't know if it's something that you caught as well on the site, which I thought it was very interesting. Who would think about mixing just normal coffee with the butter?
Yeah, I know Bulletproof does that stuff. I didn't find it on this particular product page though, but yeah. Very cool.
All right, cool. Yeah, love the second one the most. I want to share my screens. All right, so the first idea, I called it add more images in above the fold area. So what I realized here in the mobile, again, I always look at mobile because from my experience,
100%.
most of the sites get a lot of traffic. Like most traffic comes from mobile.
Yeah.
What I realize is that they only have one image, just like the image of the packaging. And sure, you know, if you scroll down more towards like half of the page, there's the second image of the product. And what I was thinking here when I was looking at this, I like this section of the site usually is towards the end of the page. So I wonder if some people that go through here and they arrive to this point, they might be thinking, oh, this is the end of the page.
They are 100% thinking it's the end of the page.
Yeah. So, you know, the way I call the area above the fold is prime real estate, right? It's like if you are a luxury fashion brand,
Right.
it's like owning a store in Rodeo Drive, right? The other thing that I noticed from reviews mining, actually, when we look at the complaints section, the complaints category of my reviews mining, one feedback that I got from customers was that they thought that they had to grind the product themselves. So they thought that the product was coming in beans, right? So now all of a sudden, this is a clear insight that tells me that people, or not everybody probably, but a lot of people think that the product comes in beans, right?
Absolutely.
So my hypothesis here is, oh, wow, we're not doing a good job at explaining with visual that this type of coffee doesn't come with bean. So my idea here is to introduce more images. The other thought is, you know, in a world like we live now with YouTube Shorts, you know, Instagram, I think they call him, how does Instagram call him? Not the stories, the clips, whatever it's called. And then in the TikTok kind of like way of displaying videos, what happens, like it would be interesting to not just add images to this product gallery, but also small shorts, more small clips of, and I've found them, a lot of them on Pinterest. I put some example. What about showing the real coffee, the real powder that they get from the product? People consuming the coffee, enjoying the coffee, especially like those that use it as a habit, as a ritual. The other thing I discovered from research was that a lot of people, you know, consume it with butter and ghee, which is another type of ingredient. So it would be another type of photo that I would add to the product page. And then I just literally Googled, I looked up for Bulletproof on Pinterest, and I found some amazing photos. And this one in particular was a clip of how people use the product. And mind you, you know, Bulletproof has over 577,000 monthly views on Pinterest. So I think they should leverage that on the product page.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
My second idea, I called it improve clarity and credibility of the benefits. Let me explain a little bit more about this. If we look at the product page, towards a little bit after the call to action, they have this section called benefits, where they display 4 main benefits: clean coffee, you know, toxins free, rainforest, alien certification, and then finally bulletproof process, right? When I looked at this section, I was like, well, there's a lot of things that can be improved around these benefits. First of all, some of them are not 100% clear, and others are just claims that anybody can potentially do it, and they're not strong enough. They're claims that should be 10x stronger, right? So what I'm suggesting here is to make these benefits more clear and actually add more credibility and more focus on the end benefit of these benefits. So here's the idea that I came up with. Basically, it's actually quite simple. It's adding one sentence just below each benefit that teases the user. And I want to go through them because I cherry pick them in a very kind of like specific way. So the first one, clean coffee. You know, my first thought when I saw that name, I was like, well, I wonder how many people Maybe like the experts about coffee might know what a clean coffee is, but I wonder what about the other segment of people. So I use the sentence, the question for a specific purpose, because I want, whenever we use sentence, you're a copywriter, you know better than 10x better than myself. You want to increase their curiosity, right? So I put, what does that mean, right? So that's a way to like, okay, of course I want to know what that means, right? The second one is tested for toxins, right? And okay, in a skeptical world like we live in every single day, if you make a claim, you want to actually back it up with proof. So what I was suggesting here is, again, same kind of approach. Give a question where I say, do you want to see the lab results? Right. So opening up that would show a certification from the lab. And then the next one, kind of similar to the previous one, if you claim to be Rainforest Alliance certified, show it. Again, clicking see the certification opens up that official screenshot of that certification. And finally, when I read Bulletproof process, yeah, maybe like if you're a returning customer that has bought this brand before, even I would actually even argue that a lot of people that have bought that product before would not know what a bulletproof process is, right? So my question here is, how does that work? Like, that's the first thing. Like, okay, bulletproof process, what is it? How does that work? Opening up, so clicking on each of these teasers, I call them, opens up a modal, a pop-up, and each one of them has different kind of like explanations. So the first one explains what clean coffee means. The second one shows the original lab results documentation of the toxin free. And then the third one shows the original certification for Rainforest Alliance. And then finally, the last one shows how the process works and what the bullet process.
And just scroll up a little bit. I want to actually talk about this. This is a great idea, and this is something that should be, on at every important claim that, or every important element. Like, if so on the page, I think one of the questions people might have, which is that, well, doesn't this distract the shopper? If they weren't really interested in saw the headline, tested for toxins, they're like, great, and now we've kind of injected a question here. So isn't this going to distract the shopper? And my response to that is that, first of all, our brains are moving so fast. We are only paying attention to things that are of interest to us. So if tested for toxins is something I don't care about, or something that I don't need clarification on, I'm not going to, the font size of that text is smaller for one to see. So I actually have to consciously slow down to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. The counter argument I'd make to that on top of that is that, even if I didn't, let's say there was a user that didn't care about that detail, but now we've injected this thought in their mind. So technically you could say, well, aren't we increasing friction? And I would say, no, we're not, because at the end of the day, even if the user didn't care about the toxins, they've seen a link, they're clicking on it, we're actually still engaging them with our sales page. That toxins link that pop-up is going to make them feel better about the product. So it's still a good outcome, even, in all scenarios.
Yeah, and I want to build a little bit more on the top of what you just said. One thing that I would do here, it's a must do if you wanna run a similar test, is actually set up an event in Google Analytics that tracks each one of the 4 links. I would actually set up one event for each link, because what you want to do once you run the test is, and this is a great way to come up with a bunch of iterations after you're done testing this idea, is I would want to understand, first of all, how many people click on each of those links. Because from a learning perspective, let's not forget, Rishi, that we do see a role to improve sales and a bunch of metrics that our clients have. But the learning aspect of CRO, unfortunately, is not spoken enough. So me trying to track each one of those links, I want to understand what's more popular, which one of the four is getting more clicks, because now I'm learning where the most of the attention is and what happens after they open up the pop-up, how long they stay there for, which is basically almost like that tracking those metrics is the beginning of the next iteration of test that I want to run.
Right. And I think once you have the tracking for these four things, once that plumbing has been put in place, you might actually now have an idea that says, you know what, I have this fifth idea, and
Yeah.
I'm going to, this bulletproof process gets the least number of clicks. I'm actually going to replace that with something else. And now we've explored new ideas that we didn't even have.
Yeah, and to build on the top of this, now all of a sudden, we know that everybody cares about the clean coffee. Now the question is, how can I disseminate that learning across other pages of the funnel? But not only that, even in my Facebook ads or my Google ads angles or my email follow-up. So it's a huge learning for a company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's wonderful.
There's one last thing I want to mention. There is actually a bonus opportunity that I created, but we're not going to talk about it in this video. If you're interested to hear more about it, I called it Motivate People to Subscribe. If you're interested, sign up to our newsletter. We share bonus ideas with all our email subscribers. So I put the link in the YouTube description, so feel free.
And I've seen this idea because we looked at it before the call, so it's a good one. So I would say do subscribe if you want to see it.
All right. That's pretty much all I got, Rishi.
Awesome. Great episode. We will see you guys next week once again. Ciao.
Ciao.